Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
We have breaking news. President Barack Obama was born in the United States. Who knew? Is that even constitutional? Donald Trump has just concluded his appearance at his luxury hotel in Washington, now open, by the way, the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. It's now open for business. If you want to book, just call 1-800-I-TROLLED every TV network in America, and you can book a room there. And Trump, speaking from his new luxury hotel, well, he didn't speak for a while. When I woke up this morning, I switched on whatever TV network it was, and they're showing this, like, blank picture of the empty podium at which Donald Trump will be making his statement on where the President of the United States, now in his 8th year of office, was born. And eventually the podium was no longer empty because a parade of Donald Trump's vast supporting act came out and talked about Trump and said this about Trump, that about Trump for 40 minutes. And then at the end of it, Trump walks out for 2 minutes and says, the President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period, unquote. You can take that to the bank, says Trump. And then he blamed Hillary for starting this birther stuff and congratulated himself on having brought it all to a close. And Hillary did indeed start it. But basically, Trump just engaged in a spectacular wind-up of America's media, who covered this non-event. They're the ones who insisted on it. Well, where do you stand now? Do you think the president was born in the United States? They insisted on it. He scheduled an event. I do beg your pardon. He scheduled an event to address the issue and basically got himself a whole stack of free TV airtime, and at the end of it announced the president was born in America. If Hillary, this is what it's like when you run a campaign without any consultants, when you're free of the malign consultant class that has bored presidential politics into the ground, where you have these overmanaged, overscripted candidates. If Hillary wanted, if we want to go further down this route, Hillary is also the one who floated the Obama might be a secret Muslim thing. And she was asked about this. Do you accept, on 60 Minutes in 2008, do you accept that Barack Obama is not a Muslim? And she gave this cryptic answer, as far as I know. And it would be nice if Hillary had any wit. She'd do something like this. She'd say she was going to schedule a press conference to clear up once and for all whether or not Barack Obama was a secret Muslim. And she'd have all her surrogates and entourage and supporting cast. She'd have Bill and Chelsea and all the rest of them beforehand, giving her all this free publicity, and then do something like this. But she doesn't have that. And when she spoke yesterday, and she was asked about the deception that her campaign engaged in over her collapse on Sunday. And she said that, quote, my campaign has said that they could have been faster, and I agree with them, unquote. So there's this person called Hillary, and then there is this separate entity called Hillary 2016. And Hillary is now blaming Hillary 2016 for not getting the information out about her alleged pneumonia, in a timely manner. And that's why she's a dud. She's a bust as a candidate. Trump is being nimbler. He's having more fun, and that is showing. Mark Stein in for Rush on America's #1 radio show. America's Anchorman is away. And this is your undocumented anchorman, no supporting paperwork whatsoever. Honoured to be here, honoured to be back with you. I was last here in June, back when I think Lindsey Graham was surging in Iowa. I can't remember now, it's been so long. Lindsey Graham, he was surging in Iowa. And that's how long it's been, Mr. Snerdley. And when Rush said yesterday that I was going to be in today, there were a few tweets. I got a few tweets saying I'd been gone so long they wondered if I was dangerously ill. So, no, I wasn't dangerously ill. I just I overheated slightly for a few months. I was dehydrated. I hadn't drunk a glass of water since April 2009. My staff's always kidding me about it, but I'm fine now. I feel terrific. I spent a few days chasing puppies and 2-year-olds around, and now I feel great. The 2-year-old's parents are taking out a restraining order, but nuts to them. Rush is going to be back on Monday for authentic, full-strength, all-American excellence in broadcasting, the real deal, except no substitutes, except for the next 3 hours. But it is the end of the week, and you know what that means.
Live from Ice Station EIB, it's Open Line Friday.
Yes, you know how this works. 1-800-282-2882. From Monday to Thursday, the show is in the hands of a ruthlessly, highly trained broadcast specialist, controlling the content of what goes out over America's airwaves with an iron rod. But we do not have any highly trained broadcast specialist here today. There's just me, so you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Trump's economic plan, Hillary's pneumonia, Sri Lankan cricket scores. It is entirely up to you. 1-800-282-2882. I've been overseas basically the last few months. I've been in a couple of dozen different countries, I think, since I was last here. I'm working on a little upcoming project, and I got back to this great republic yesterday and have been getting myself up to speed. I thought the election would be over by now and Jeb would have won, but apparently it's all still up in the air. So give me a call and bring me up to speed on what's been happening, because you know as much as I do. The highly trained broadcast specialist is out and he won't be back till Monday, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say. And just on the off chance that I overheat again and I'm not here for another 3 months, let me just throw out a few thoughts to get us started. I think Donald Trump is going to win this. I think Donald Trump is going to win, which is amazing when you consider he's running against both parties and the media, and you consider that he is ignoring every rule in the American presidential campaign playbook. And sometimes it seems like quite clever when he ignores all these rules, and then other times when he goes off on some detour that doesn't seem to interest anybody but him, you wonder why he's doing that, and it takes him a couple of weeks to find his way back. But given that a few weeks ago everyone was saying this thing was over, he's going to get slaughtered, Republicans head for the hills, the job now is to save a few Senate seats here and a few House seats there because Hillary is going to sweep everything, and it hasn't happened. Trump, I think, is going to win this thing, and I look at people's concerns about that because the Republicans were as frightened of that as anybody. I read a piece by Ben Shapiro yesterday, and Ben Shapiro, who's a smart guy, was saying this could be the end of conservatism, the end of conservatism. I don't think it's going to be that. I think if Trump wins, it's going to be what in other countries would be a coalition government. It's going to be a coalition between the Trump party in the White House and the Republican Party in the House and Senate. And that's a great opportunity for conservatism, actually, because the House, a Republican House and a Republican Senate, are going to be putting the screws to President Trump in a way that they have not done to President Obama, where basically McConnell and Boehner and Ryan fold so quickly that the White House might as well hire them to be White House valets. That's all they've been good for in the 8 years of the Obama administration. They're going to be a lot. I mean, already Paul Ryan has been far tougher on Trump than he's been on Obama. I mentioned that I got back to the country yesterday. I showed up just in time for Paul Ryan finally to endorse Trump. When I left the country 3 months ago, this was amazing to me. When I left, the papers were full of Paul Ryan prowling the battlements like Hamlet, doing his interminable to endorse or not to endorse. That is the question. And I go away for 3 months and I keep thinking, well, say what you like, but at least that whole Paul Ryan endorsement thing will have been settled months and months ago. No, I come back just in time and Hamlet has finally finished prowling the battlements and come down to the castle drawing room to announce that he's now ready to endorse Donald Trump. And most countries conduct their election campaigns in 6 weeks. So the time we've got to go, which is about 7 weeks now, 7 weeks and a couple of days, that would be the length of an entire election campaign in most countries. We have such a leisurely system that it takes twice that long just to get one piffling office holder to endorse his own party's candidate. That's Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan has finally said enough with the to endorse or not to endorse routine. You know, I listened to him back in June when he was doing this. I'm not saying I don't not entirely support him, but I am saying I'm not quite ready to disavow completely rejecting him. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working through it, and I'm hoping to get quite there, wherever there is, by the time I get to it. And yesterday, Paul Ryan finally got to it. Now, he's never that picky about Obama's bloated budget. That, boomf, right through the house. Express check-in, 24 hours, done deal, right? But Trump, he has to work on this. He has to prowl the battlements for another 3 or 4 months. So all this talk about, conservatism is dead, the Ben Shapiro's piece, conservatism is dead, it's over, it's dead. Who killed conservatism? It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a coalition between the Trump party and the Republican Party. And you can already tell that Ryan and co are going to be far pickier about going along with Trump than they ever were about going along with Obama. So right there and then, that is going to be healthier for the institutions of American government, because Congress is going to recover its self-respect. And it's going to assert its powers in a way that it hasn't when it's rolled over like a poodle for Obama these last 8 years. So just to get the big takeaway out there, I think Trump's going to win. I'm not frightened about Trump winning. There's only two parties in this country. They're necessarily a coalition of interests, and the balance in that coalition with a Republican president, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate is going to be very healthy in November. 1-800-282-2882 if you disagree. If you're Hillary's doctor, if you're that nurse who walks alongside her, propping her up and checking her pulse all the time, whoever you are, you're free to dial 1-800-282-2882. We pick up the cost of the call. So if you're Hillary's nurse, lean her up against the wall, find a payphone and let us know how she's doing. Mark Stein in for Rush. Lots more still to come. Hey, Mark Stein in for Rush, feeling almost as mellow as the music on today's show. 1-800-282-2882. Love to hear from you, especially if you're a Hillary supporter and you think you can pull this thing out. I was, as I said, I was trying to get up to speed on what's been happening yesterday, and everyone's going along about, it's medical records. Trump's released his medical records. Look, these, he's 15 pounds overweight. We brought in our medical consultant, Dr. whatever his name is, and he's going to talk about this. And has Trump been as transparent as Hillary when it comes to the medical records? Medical records. Other places don't have medical records. You know, Francois Hollande became president of France without releasing his medical records. Angela Merkel became Chancellor of Germany without releasing her medical records. Malcolm Turnbull became Prime Minister of Australia without releasing his medical records. It's not about medical records. This is insane. Hillary is being completely transparent. She's lying down in the street with one shoe in the gutter. You can't get more transparent about your medical condition than that. This is bonkers. Trump has released his figure showing that his cholesterol figure is this and his kidney is that. And Trump is literally the last man standing because the other candidate is lying down and being hoisted, as one of the police detectives said, like a sack of meat into the SUV. And it's astonishing to me, the dishonesty with which the media are framing this debate. It's like, well, what has happened to Hillary? And they're now saying, the terms in which we're allowed to talk about Hillary's health. And like Rush has been very sympathetic to Hillary on a personal level, because it's sad to see somebody being put through this. She's obviously not well, and she's obviously got a condition that isn't the condition that they're telling us it is, because she can't reliably perform. To look at it, if it was the Oscars, for example, the Oscars, and they're trying to decide whether we're going to have Ellen DeGeneres host this year or we're going to have Seth MacFarlane this year. And they say, well, Ellen DeGeneres did a pretty good job hosting the Oscars last year. Yeah, but I like Seth MacFarlane. He started strong. Remember when he came out and he sang, "Hooray for Hollywood," but then halfway through, his legs buckled and he threw up into the orchestra pit. And then 20 minutes later, he's saying, and the Oscar goes to... and George Clooney and Matt Damon are sitting out in the crowd, and with all the hacking, they can't tell whether George Clooney's won the Oscar or Adam Sandler's won the Oscar, and nobody's sure who to stand up. That's the condition Hillary's campaign is now in. As Rush mentioned the other day, the priority for the campaign is to keep her healthy until the first debate. That is the Weekend at Bernie's scenario. And it doesn't mean anybody wishes her ill, but it does mean that we wish the lying American media ill. I was not in this country on Sunday when this happened, and the first Google things I saw when it happened, were all from the foreign press. The Daily Mail in London. Clinton collapse, it said. Clinton collapse. Meanwhile, you have to wait 2 or 3 hours for the American media to start saying, she was overcome and was feeling faint and so had to leave. She underwent a near swoon. She didn't undergo a near swoon. She was propped up against a bollard in the street, and then she deflated. She collapsed quicker than Libya collapsed after she stuck her nose into Libya's affairs. That's how she went down quicker than Monica. This is total dishonesty, and it is repulsive. And it is possible to feel sympathetic for this woman, for whatever it is that's going on, and to utterly despise, absolutely utterly despise, the American media that is lying to us about it. Because it's basically, I was in Denmark a few weeks ago, which is where Hans Christian Andersen wrote The Emperor's New Clothes. And it wasn't The Emperor Has No Clothes, it's The Empress Has No Shoe. And the little boy, who's the guy with the cell phone footage, who pointed out that the Empress has no shoe, all the time they're, no, she's just slightly dehydrated. There's nothing to see here. The Empress has her shoe. It is possible to understand and sympathize with what Hillary Clinton is going through, and yet completely despise the American newspaper industry, the American television networks, and the American press that is being completely dishonest about what it is that Hillary is undergoing. And by the way, it does raise the question, when she is having these episodes, who's in charge? Who's running the show? That's the question that eventually Americans will start to ask. Yes, America's anchorman is away. He's taking his new iPhone 7 for a spin. He will be back Monday, but in Rush's absence, always remember that you need never be discombobulated by sinister foreign guest hosts. If you go to rushlimbaugh.com and become a Rush 24/7 subscriber, once you do that, you can enjoy Rush in any known medium at any time of the day or night, whatever you want, whether you want the audio, whether you want the text, whether you want the Ditto Cam, so you can actually watch all the shows, either live or on demand. And if you join today, if you go to rushlimbaugh.com and become a Rush 24/7 subscriber, you can get a free Never Hillary bumper sticker. And while you're there, stick around and also pick up the latest addition to the EIB T-shirt collection, and that is the I'm a Hillary Deplorable T-shirt. They're beautiful T-shirts with I'm a Hillary Deplorable on the front, and then they got the Never Hillary thing on the back. Rush has been talking about them this week. They are selling like crazy. And you need to get one for yourself, or treat the whole family to one. It's like an army. It's like Les Déplorables. Can you hear the people sing? Just go to rushlimbaugh.com, sign up for Rush 24/7, get your I'm a Hillary Deplorable T-shirt while you're there, and don't forget, if you sign up for Rush 24/7 today, you will get a free Never Hillary bumper sticker. Talking about deplorables, I believe that's what Bonnie in Atlanta, Georgia wants to talk about. Bonnie, you're live on the Rush Limbaugh Show today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How's things with you?
Just great. Listen, I just want to tell you that I agree with you. I think that Donald Trump is going to win, hands down. And let me tell you something. You know, when Hillary made the basket of deplorables speech,
right,
it reminded me right away of when Howard Dean had his meltdown on TV. Now, her style was totally different from his. He had a screaming meltdown, and it was the end of him. That was it for him. He was toast. But when Hillary had her basket of deplorables meltdown, she went into like a trance. And if you play that segment, every time they play it, I think, and here's the trance right here.
Right,
and here's the meltdown, but it's a calmer type of meltdown, but it shows her full face. It shows what she is, and she comes off as a snob, which is a terrible thing to come off as.
No, that's absolute. I don't know what you mean by that, Bonnie.
Never mind, they both have money, but Trump comes off as a down-to-earth person, like the average Joe, that his father worked himself up, and he worked himself up.
No, he doesn't do that thing where rich, which is one of the things people don't like about rich people.
Right.
Where they pretend to be a man of the people.
And but it's not an act with Trump. He is like that. I lived in New York. I lived in New York City for over 25 years. And for the most part, they're colorblind people. You cannot be a bigot in New York. There are too many people to be.
Not.
It's too much of a melting pot.
No, and he doesn't even think like that. He's like someone, he runs beauty contests where you get beautiful women from all over the world, and as long as they're beautiful, you don't care what color they are. You can't prosper in New York without working with all kinds of people from every background, and you can't have a global business like Trump does without understanding other cultures, other peoples, all the rest of it. So this idea that he's some kind of narrow-minded bigot is a completely ridiculous thing and isn't going anywhere. But just to go on this, Bonnie, about this basket of deplorables thing, this is very interesting. There's a piece today arguing, I think it's by the chief political editor of Yahoo, for whatever that's worth, and she's arguing that, in fact, this is a brilliant strategy from Hillary, and she's trapped Trump into walking into the trap. And the basket of deplorables thing, which she did, as you say, she did it at this private dinner, Bonnie, where with the LGBTQ, I always lose it after the Q. What's the next couple of letters? I can't remember. Anyway, whatever it is, the LGBTQII, I think there's two Qs, questioning or something. And she was there while she was infecting Barbara Streisand with pneumonia. She suddenly unburdened herself of this casual thought. And it's interesting to me because I was passing through London during the Brexit vote back in June, and in the run-up to the campaign, they had done the same thing there, that they had demonized the Brexit, the people who wanted to leave the European Union, demonized them as all the phobes, the bigots, the racists, the Islamophobes, all the things that Hillary's putting in her basket of deplorables. And two things can happen when you do that. You can make some people think, oh, yes, this political position I'm sympathetic to, it's not quite respectable, so I don't want to be with all those horrible, beastly, bigoted, deplorable people, so I'm going to move away from them and go with all the nice people, like Hillary, or the people who want to remain in the European Union or whatever. But there's another thing that can happen too, that when you tell half the electorate that they're bigots, that they're racists, that they're sexists, that they're homophobes, that they're Islamophobes, that they're transphobes, and there'll be a new phobe along any minute, because it's like the number 22 bus, and you bigots will always be on the wrong side of it, then something else sometimes happens, is that people sometimes just go quiet, or they give dishonest answers to pollsters. So you're told, for example, that you're a bigot and a racist and an Islamophobe if you support Britain leaving the European Union. And then Gallup call up 20 minutes later and say, who are you supporting in the referendum? And you say, and you think, well, I don't want the nice man from Gallup to think I'm a bigot. So you actually give him a dishonest answer. And the polls were all completely wrong in Brexit, on the Brexit vote. The people had been told that they were bigots and homophobes and racists and all the rest of it, and they voted to leave the European Union. And that's what happened there. That's what happened there, that if you tell people these are not respectable opinions, you won't get an honest answer when you try to poll them. And so there's a danger for Hillary in going down that route. It's really, it doesn't always work to tell people that this is not a respectable opinion. Now, there's a story that, it's not an important story, but it came up in the news today that Elton John gave this big concert in Hyde Park in London. It was broadcast live on the BBC. And this guy tries to blow it up. He wants to blow it up. He's a terrorist, and he's making nail bombs to blow it up. And the terrorist's name, go on, take a wild guess. Well, the terrorist's name is Hussein Ali Saeed. And he's a teenager who wants to blow up Elton John with a nail bomb and kill all Elton John's fans. And this is presented in the press reports as teen arrested for attempting to blow up Elton John concert. So why would a teen want to blow up an Elton John concert? Well, he's not a teen. He's a jihadist. He's a Muslim who supports ISIS, watches ISIS videos. Why does he want to blow up Elton John? Could it be that Elton John is like the most famous homosexual on the planet, and these ISIS supporters hate homosexuals, and in ISIS land they want to throw him off the building? Could that be why this Hussein Ali Saeed, this teen, quote, teen, unquote, wants to blow up the Elton John concert? And that's how normal people talk about it, right? That's how everybody... Well, Mike now is suggesting that he didn't like The Lion King. He'd heard Hakuna Matata one time too often. Can you feel the love tonight? He wasn't feeling it. So he decides to blow. Now, that's a theory that I might be proven wrong. He might be Lion King-ophobic, but he might just be one of many people who has gone on the internet. He's found ISIS. He wants to be a jihadist, and he wants to kill all the people that the ISIS guys kill. And who do the ISIS guys like to kill? They like to kill Jews. They like to kill Christians. They like to kill the women who are too old to take as sex slaves, and they like to throw the homosexuals off of buildings. Okay, so who's? Oh, look, Elton John's giving a concert. Maybe I'll blow. That's how normal people talk about these things. They think that it's not. And again, when you read these stories, they're all the same, and the police statements are all the same. Oh, his Mohammed got together with his friend Mohammed and Mohammed's cousin Mohammed, and they decided to go into a church and stab a priest. And people think, the police say their motive remains unclear. Oh, really? Well, it isn't unclear to anybody who's more sentient than an earthworm. Everybody else understands exactly what's going on here. But the media and the Democrat Party and half the Republican Party all say you can't talk about this stuff honestly. You can't talk about it. If you do, you're an Islamophobe. No. It's actually this guy who tried to kill Elton John. He's the homophobe. In fact, he's so homophobic, he wants to blow Elton John apart with the nail bomb and all the guys singing along to Can You Feel the Love Tonight while they're sitting in the park there enjoying him. But the modern, repressive, quasi-totalitarian, anti-free speech world of political correctness says you cannot state what is perfectly obvious to anyone more sentient than an amoeba. You are not allowed to say that. And that is incidentally another reason for not voting for Hillary Clinton, because they no longer pretend there are two sides on these things. And that's what the basket of deplorables thing. It isn't just that she's just insulting half the electorate. It goes slightly beyond that, because the difference these days between the left and the right is this. The right says, I happen to disagree with your position on gay marriage or climate change or transgendered bathrooms, whatever it is. Whereas the left increasingly says, I disagree with your right to have a position on gay marriage or climate change or transgendered bathrooms. There's only one correct view, and you're not allowed to go beyond it. And that's what really she's telling you with the basket of deplorables remark. And far too many people have gone along with it too. Michael Gerson, very nice chap. He was Bush's speechwriter. He's now got a column in the Washington Post, and he says that Trump has licensed all these racists and he's made them respectable. He's basically gone the basket of deplorables route, Mike Gerson has. And I'm sorry, I don't buy that. There's only two parties in this country. There's only two parties. And they've been the same two lousy, stinking, rotten parties for 150 years. Don't ask me why. Northern Ireland has got 17 different parties represented between Westminster and the local thing. So there's whichever sliver of tribal opinion you happen to identify with, there's one for you to vote for there. But here there's just the two. And a certain proportion of people in any society are always going to be scummy people, right? But there isn't a scummy party. It's a two-party system. So each of the two parties has unrespectable people voting for it. That's just the nature of the system. And the reason, and the correct answer when Mike Pence gave his response on David Duke, whom David Duke is someone nobody hears of, except every 4 years when a Republican Party candidate has to disavow him. Otherwise, nobody knows who this guy is. He could have died in 1972, for all we know, but he just exists to trap Republican candidates on TV. Nobody ever says to Hillary Clinton, are you going to disavow Al Sharpton? And until they do, take your basket of deplorables and sit on it the next time you fall in the street. It's completely ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And that is exactly what is, and as I said, the danger for the Democrats is this, that people just go quiet and they don't give honest answers. So that what looks like, 41-40 to Hillary may in fact be, actually substantially worse than that, as it turned out for all those snobbish, elitist, pro-European Union metropolitan types sneering at the people during the Brexit campaign in the UK. Mark Stein for Rush, more straight ahead. Hey, Open Line Friday on America's #1 radio show. Let us go to James in Reno, Nevada. James, what's on your mind?
Greetings, Mark. Huge fan of yours here. Listen, I'd like to know your reaction to the Brexit vote and whether you see any parallels with the situation in Europe and ours here in the States.
Yeah, I think there are actually parallels for exactly the same thing, that the gap between the ruled and the rulers has widened to the point that it is now untenable. There's a huge gulf between how a significant chunk of the electorate in Western societies think of things and how their essentially homogenous political class ruling over them thinks about it. Basically, because the present arrangements don't work for them. That mass immigration has meant that for some people they're in a permanent economic despond. The good times, as Trump said yesterday, the hard times never go away. You don't have to drive far from wherever you live in America. Drive 40 miles in almost any direction and you'll come to towns where that is true, James. And that's also true in Britain. That's true in Germany, where Angela Merkel's let in a couple of million so-called refugees. That's true in Sweden, which I think might be the first Western country to collapse from all this. Not only, but it's not an economic issue. It's like the economic picture is permanently flat, and at the same time, you're in this profoundly uncertain cultural shift too, where everything's changing all around you, and you're suddenly told that as in Britain, that you have gender segregated swimming sessions for Muslims in the municipal swimming pool, that the men and women have to sit in different areas and all this. So you don't even have the consolations of culture. Everything. It's not just the economic disparity, but it's the cultural onslaught too. And we'll explore that a bit later in the next couple of hours. But that is exactly what underpinned the Brexit vote. It underpinned Angela Merkel's defeat in the German state election a couple of weeks ago. And it's underpinning what's going on in a lot of the rest of the Western world too. Mark Stein in for Rush. Lots more still to come. Mark Stein in for Rush. There's some fantastic pictures of the Loch Ness Monster in the papers today, with 3 hoops of the monster's long body splashing through the water. Actually quite incredible, by a photographer called Ian Bremner. And this is like the first really good picture of the slippery Loch Ness Monster in years. Apparently, the Loch Ness Monster apparently overheated and dehydrated slightly and has been resting up for a while, but is now back in terrific form. And there's this great 3-hoop picture of the Loch Ness Monster in all the papers. Mark Stein for Rush, Open Line Friday. We will take your calls straight ahead. Yes, America's Anchorman is away, and this is your undocumented Anchorman, EIB's very own Anchor Baby. Honoured to be with you today for Open Line Friday. Don't forget that Rush will return live on Monday for the real deal, authentic, full-strength, all-American excellence in broadcasting. We are speaking at the end of an amazing week, really, in an amazing presidential season, in which the world saw something of Hillary Clinton on Sunday that it was not meant to see. And there's something like so weird about trying to do this in an age of cell phone cameras and Facebook and all the rest of it. And you think about it, back in the days, you don't have to go all the way back to FDR when they covered up his polio. But 20 years ago, this would have been extremely difficult. You would not have had the technology to hand to just instantly grab the footage of what happened, and then the technology to publish it yourself for the world to see, so that one tweeter, one private Twitterer can publish this for the world at a time when the biggest media organizations in American life are denying that anything has happened. When the Washington Post has got nothing to say, when the New York Times has got nothing to say, when ABC, CBS, NBC, they got nothing to say about this. But one person with a camera can publish it to the world. And I said yes earlier that this isn't anything to do with medical records and who's been more transparent, because, as I said, you can't get more transparent than when you're lying down in the street. That's more transparency than most of us would actually want to cede to the world. It's more basic than that. She can't do it. It's entirely random. And I say this, this guy, what's the guy at CNN called, Mr. Snerdley? Brian Stelter. Brian Stelter, who's been floating this absurd thing that somehow Rush and Sean Hannity want Hillary dead. We don't want her dead. Rush said, weeks ago, when she had that coughing fit, that it was terrible. Why didn't anybody go and help her? Why didn't she's coughing for 4 minutes and nobody goes and gets her? She's got the biggest entourage. Do you realise that? God knows how many cars she's going to have in the presidential motorcade, because right now she's got the biggest entourage. Yesterday, for her comeback speech, in the motorcade, I counted 1 bus, 1 truck, 4 vans, and 9 SUVs. So you run the arithmetic on that. How many people in each of just 4 apiece in the SUVs and maybe 6 in all those vans. And God knows how many people on the bus. I guess that's the press, but there's press people. There were fewer than 300 people actually at the event. So we're now getting the stage where for the Hillary campaign, there's more people in the entourage than the crowd. And yet, as Rush pointed out, in that vast entourage, not one person went up to Hillary when she had that coughing fit and just nursed her off stage, and instead just let her hack her lung up in front of the world. And I'm sympathetic too. I certainly don't want her dead, and I'm not saying that for cynical reasons, because then Joe Biden would replace her and sweep the Electoral College, and the Dems would be in power forever. I'm not saying it for cynical reasons. I don't wish her ill. I think what we're witnessing here is a kind of horror story. And the symbolism of it is too trite. The idea that 9/11, it wasn't just a speech in Idaho she collapses at, or a fundraiser with the LGBTQII QWERTY crowd in West Hollywood. It's the 9/11 ceremony. And immediately someone makes the obvious statement. You know, if she can't handle a 9/11 ceremony, how is she expected to handle an actual 9/11? The symbolism is too sad. It's too pathetic. And I wasn't well for part of last year. And I'm always mindful. If you have ill health, you're careful about how you appear in public. Anyone, you're mindful. For start, you don't want it. I entirely accept that she doesn't want it to get out that she's ill. I didn't want it to get out that when I was ill, because I believe there's an old showbiz adage, when you're sick, your phone stops ringing. And there's a lot of truth in that. So when you're ill, you're very careful about public appearances, because with cell phones and YouTube, it's all over the world instantly. So you think about these things, you plan these things, you think, well, wait a minute, I have these pills to control the pain, but unfortunately they also make me dull-witted, so maybe I shouldn't have them before I give the speech, because then I'll just sound like a boring drone. So you're trying to juggle your medication to do all that. You start paying attention to things like how many steps are there up to the stage, because I don't want to look like I'm crippled as I go up to the stage, because normally I like to leap and bound onto the stage like a gazelle or the Swiss chamois leaping through the Alps. That's how I like to get on the stage. And when you're sick, you start to think about these things. And I don't have the entourage that Hillary Clinton travels with. So when I fall over, I'm just going to be lying there, because there'll just be 2 young ladies who won't physically have the strength to pick up a guy like me. So I gave a lot of thought to that. And I remember, it must be about this time last year, standing in a Washington crummy, awful, depressing Washington function hotel, about to go down and talk to a ballroom full of people, and thinking, I'm in real pain. Do I dare risk having another painkiller? And I'm not going to tell you what speech that was, but I think I was on pretty good form that day, and it looked terrific. So if you're in this game, you give a lot of basic thought to managing these kinds of issues. And as I said, I don't have an entourage the size of Hillary's entourage. I don't have 9 SUVs, 4 vans, and the motorcade she travels with. And yet all the Queen's horses and all the Queen's men cannot put Humpty Hillary together again. She has these hacking fits in public. She falls down in the street. She's leant up against street furniture like she's a cardboard cutout of Hillary. This is weird. It's sad. But it's beyond that. It's weird. And as I said, who is in charge? Her shoe fell off and she's out of it. She was unconscious when they put her in that car. Who's in charge then? If that happens during the inauguration, if that happens during the G7 summit, if that happens when she's president, who takes over? Is it Bill? Bill doesn't seem to be quite on top of things these days. He keeps giving the game away. He keeps forgetting that it's supposed to be pneumonia and keeps talking about the flu. Who's in charge? Is it Huma Abedin? Is it going to be President Abedin, basically? The one, Hillary is like one of these, she reminds me of AOL dial-up in the 90s. You know, it was great. It's great. It's great when it's on, but then when it's not on, it just switches off and you got nothing. You just, or whatever it is. That's Hillary. She's terrific when she's on, and then, oh, great. We'll have to redial. Can we redial her? Get her back? That's Hillary at AOL.com. That's what has become, and it's very strange. And until she actually collapsed like a sack of potatoes in the street, until she collapsed, as I said, quicker than Libya, until she went down, as I said, quicker than Monica, the press told us you're not allowed to talk about that. And they say it's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory. All these conspiracy theories about Hillary's health. That's like saying the little boy with the emperor's new clothes. He's got a conspiracy theory. It's not. The emperor is naked in the street. And the empress is on the sidewalk. And that you don't need to be a conspiracy. I love conspiracy theories. Birthers, truthers, bring them all. I love them all. Bring them on. But it's not a conspiracy theory when you're sitting there waiting for the coughing to stop and you're sitting there wondering why Hillary has to be lent against a bollard. And that is why Trump is, as I said, literally the last man standing. I saw this ad because I'm catching up on all the attack ads. They're so cute, aren't they? Everybody spends such a lot of money, except Trump. Trump has spent, $17.47 on attack ads. But Hillary, money no object. She's like Jeb. So she's got this slick attack ad. And it features Lindsey Graham and Susan Collins and all the other big shot Republicans who've said that they can't support Trump. Because I don't know about you, but I really like to take guidance on how I should vote from Lindsey Graham and Susan Collins. I mean, who doesn't? So they've got all these things saying, all these big shot Republicans, Lindsey Graham, Susan Collins, saying they can't support Trump. And Hillary Clinton saying, I'm Hillary Clinton and I support this, and I approve this message. And you have this parade of Republicans saying they can't support Trump, and it ends with the one word, unfit. Trump is unfit to be president. Trump is unfit. She can't use that word anymore. She can't use that word because she can't walk unaided. Because she's being walked to the 9/11 event in those wacky space alien eyeball goggles, and being held by the nurse. That's the other thing. The entourage is huge. I don't like American entourages. You've heard me say this before. I think politicians should be normal people and move among the people. And they shouldn't have this phalanx of entourage around them. Because I was down in Australia a few months ago, had lunch and dinner with two former Australian prime ministers, walked into the restaurant like normal human beings. No entourage. I hate entourages. I think it's one of the reasons why the gap between the ruling class and the ruled has widened. But most entourages fall into two categories. You've got your Secret Service guys. They're the guys with the reflector shades and the dark suits and the telephone cord hanging out the ear. You know them? The Secret Service guys. And then you've got the staffers and the aides. And they're the Huma Abedin types. They're all the slick, clever people who are on the payroll at great expense and are the ones who are running the campaign. And normally, when you look at candidates, you can see, there's a couple of Secret Service guys around them, and then there's the chief of staff, and there's the press secretary, and everything. Hillary is traveling with a retinue of medical professionals. Because you see these guys, they don't look like the Secret Service guys, they're out of shape, they're not obviously Secret Service agents, and then you see these women, and they're in this sort of nondescript kind of non-attention getting outfit that Huma Aberdeen would never be seen dead in. They're nurses. We've got a candidate being wheeled to events by medical staff because they can't tell when she switches off, when the AOL dial-up connection goes boomf. This is weird. It doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. I would object to a Republican like this. I would object, I'm old enough to have had a conversation with Strom Thurmond in the United States Senate. And Strom Thurmond then, he was a whippersnapper of 107, and he would get confused. If you asked him about the Iraq War, he would get confused and start talking about the Spanish-American War. He found it hard at that age. He was 40 years older than Hillary. It's nothing to do with age. We are being asked in the same way of totalitarian societies to string along with a fiction, that this is a fit, healthy woman who just dehydrated slightly and just needs a couple of hours rest. Whereas instead, she's actually traveling with better medical care. She's taking better medical care to the LGBT fundraiser than you get on your Obamacare plan. She's having that with her 24/7. This is weird. It's creepy. It's weird. It's like some strange conflation of Lady Macbeth and the portrait of Dorian Gray. You've got a woman consumed by ambition, even as she's being consumed by decrepitude and ill health. It is bizarre. It is creepy. And the American media, if it hadn't been for one little cell phone tweeter, would have lied the hell out of what happened to us and would be lying about it to this day. Mark Stein for Rush. We'll take your calls. Mark Stein in for Rush on Open Line Friday. Let's go to Leanne in Marietta, Ohio. Leanne, it's great to have you with us on the show.
Well, Mr. Stein, it's wonderful to talk to you. In fact, I believe that you have a better appreciation for this country than 90% or more people who were born here.
Oh, no, don't let's get into 90% and 47% because you're piling up one whole extra supersized basket of deplorables there.
Yes, but I work with you often, and I know you have a great appreciation for this country, and I really respect that.
No, I do. It's been the indispensable nation, and I hope it will continue to fulfill that role. What else is on your mind today, Leanne?
Well, I just had a couple of quick comments that, as a retired conservative college professor of sort of a rare breed, but right. Communication is and was my specialty, and I think that Mr. Trump has an opportunity to reinvigorate the party of Lincoln by using what I call Lincoln language and revitalizing. For example, Lincoln language, of course, is of the people, by the people, for the people, versus what we see now in Washington, which is of the elites, by the elites, for the elites.
Right, which is, instead of the people, by the people, for the people, we are now governed by people who think they know better than the people.
Exactly. So the ruling class is of the elites, by the elites, for the elites.
Right.
The other thing is, I think that someone who is a documentarian filmmaker would do us a great service if they made a juxtaposition of a day in the life of, where they would sort of document what Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton do on a daily basis, go to their elite clubs and hobnob with the elites, versus what people in inner cities face on an hourly basis, and juxtaposing those two things about really how incredibly disingenuous the Jesse Jacksons and Al Sharptons of the world are.
No, that's the racket of identity politics that people claim that people say I'm the spokesman for these oppressed, downtrodden people, and then they make $1 bazillion at being a spokesperson for the oppressed, while the oppressed people still end up as impoverished and oppressed as they've always been, while the other guy's living the high life. I take your point about Trump and Lincoln language. I was very touched. I don't know. He was in Laconia, New Hampshire last night. I don't know whether it was in Laconia or whether it was at when he was at the Economic Club. But he said, I think it was in Laconia, but he said he wanted to be president of all Americans. And it was a very... It's interesting to me that he's compared to Hillary, who's saying there are Americans of whom we can approve, and then there's this big, huge basket of deplorables. Trump is actually talking in a very inclusive way. Now, he's not going the of the people, by the people route, and we'll pick that up in a minute, Leanne, because it's an interesting point. But I thought it was actually rather touching yesterday in that he wasn't writing off demographics. He's not focus grouping or whatever. He's actually saying, I don't care who you are. I want to be a president for all Americans. And his language is subtly shifting. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Sorry about that. I was having a Hillary moment, just having a little coffee. I had a little just having a sip of water, and wasn't quite paying attention to the announcement. It could happen to anybody. But fortunately, I have a vast entourage of people who are there to try and persuade me to have a glass of water. You know, it's the Hillary, according to the latest thing, is, Hillary just dehydrates. That's because she just won't drink water. She just doesn't like drinking water. It's like, I don't know why it is, but she hasn't drunk a glass of water in years. Maybe it was at the fundraiser in Flint. And after that, for some reason, we couldn't get her to drink water anymore. But so she won't drink the water. Anyway, I had a little bit of a Hillary moment there myself. If you're fed up of unprofessional guest hosts hacking into the microphone, go to rushlimbaugh.com and you can forget all about these frankly low-grade guest hosts who don't know how to use the cough button on the microphone panel here. And you can subscribe to the Limbaugh Letter, which is a great read. It includes Rush's thoughts on what's going on, and it also includes Rush's interviews with prominent conservative newsmakers. For example, this very issue, he talks to vice presidential nominee Mike Pence. And if you subscribe today at rushlimbaugh.com, you can get it's a 1-year subscription, but we'll give you a 13th issue free. It's like a Greek paycheck. Under Greece's rather lavish system of remunerating public service employees, Greek civil servants used to get 14 monthly paychecks every year. You work that out. You do the math, because they can't in Greece. And that's what it's like. We haven't gone the full Greece, but we're almost there at EIB. So if you go to rushlimbaugh.com and take out a 1-year subscription to the Limbaugh Letter, you will actually get 13 issues of the Limbaugh Letter for your 1-year subscription. And while you're there, pick up an I'm a Hillary Deplorable t-shirt, which is the latest addition to the Rushwear collection. You want to be the first in your neighborhood to get it, because when they do the Paris collections, all the supermodels down the catwalk will be wearing the Hillary Deplorable t-shirt. Make sure you are the first on your block to have one by going to rushlimbaugh.com and picking up a subscription to the Limbaugh Letter while you're there. Mark Stein in for Rush. I just want to finish a thought from Leanne, who was talking about Lincolnian language. She's a retired conservative college professor. She's a conservative college professor. She is. And I know you don't believe, I know that's a rarer sighting than the Loch Ness Monster we were talking about earlier, but there are still a few. They're on the EPA endangered species list, but there are apparently a few of them still around, and Leanne is one of them. And she was talking about how she wanted Trump to use more Lincoln-like language, of the people, by the people, for the people. And he doesn't talk like that. I thought the economic speech was very, very good, very strong. But he's doing it in a way, he presents himself, as he said at one point, the country is crying out for leaders, which is different from the way Lincoln put it. Lincoln's view was that you are the leaders, and you elect one of you to be a citizen representative and to go to Washington and preside over the nation for a 4-year term. And the professional political class has destroyed all that now. The presidency has become the absolute monarchy that it was intended to replace. We have Obama issuing decrees on which portions of Obamacare are relevant at any one time. We have the bureaucracy announcing new edicts on what essentially the rules of social behaviour are, according to what bathrooms can get used in schoolhouses and all the rest of it. So we now talk in these terms of leaders. The people are crying out for new leaders. And I would prefer it if we went back to Lincoln language. I would like it if we would start talking about of the people, by the people, for the people. But it's important to remember that the ultimate power is still with you. You get the say. And that is what is driving the panic at the moment. All the people who matter in this country have agreed that Hillary should be president. I don't know why. I mean, I've got no objection to having a female leader. Britain is on to its second female prime minister. It just happened overnight in the time that Paul Ryan was still doing his thing on the battlements. Oh, to endorse or not to endorse. And while he was still dithering about that, David Cameron went boom, and Theresa May became prime minister, and Britain's got a second female prime minister. Nobody cares. Nobody talks about shattering the glass ceiling. Nobody's interested in it. It's just one of those things that happens. But Hillary, all the people who matter think that somehow the previous president's wife demonstrates the glories of female emancipation and how far women have come by making the previous guy's wife into president. They're all agreed on that, and they can't understand why it isn't happening. And there's a certain panic that is setting in amongst these people. I've got no use for Gary Johnson, who is the Libertarian candidate. After that Aleppo gaffe, where he said, "What is Aleppo?" Aleppo is a town in Syria that has been under siege for years. And I think a guy running for president should know what Aleppo is and shouldn't have to get up to speed. And I'll tell you why. It's not because it's a foreign policy issue, Mr. Snerdley. It's a domestic policy issue. Hillary wants to bring 1 million Syrians to live in the United States. That's a 15th of the population of Syria. She wants to move here instantly. It's a domestic issue. If you don't know, it's a domestic issue because Hillary goes around the world wrecking places, and then all the people who don't want to live in the places she's wrecked want to move to the Western world. So she wrecked Libya. I was down in Ventimiglia on the French-Italian border. As I said, I've been zipping around hither and yon in the last few months. I was down on Ventimiglia on the French-Italian border. In the previous 3 days, they'd had 10,000 people. 3 days. 10,000 people arrive from Libya because Libya collapsed as fast as Hillary collapsed. And she did that to Libya. Colonel Gaddafi, a couple of years before he was toppled, he gave $1 million to Beyoncé to sing at his birthday party. He gave Beyoncé, or to lip sync, because she lip syncs the national anthem, doesn't she? I don't know whether she did it live, but she might have done the Libyan national anthem live at the big Gaddafi party. So he pays her $1 million to come and perform at a big Gaddafi birthday Beano. If he'd given that $1 million to the Clinton Foundation for Bill to give a speech on diarrhea in Africa, Colonel Gaddafi would be alive today. He spent that $1 million on Beyonce was about as stupid a prioritization as any of these poor third world despots could ever have fallen for. If he'd given that, if he'd instead said, I think I'll give $1 million to the Clinton Global Initiative, and for my birthday party this year, why don't we have that nice young Chelsea Clinton come and give a speech on diarrhea in Africa? That's sure to make the party go with a swing. If he'd done that, he'd still have been in power today. And instead, Libya collapsed, and when I was in Ventimiglia, over 3,000 people every day arriving in Italy from that collapsed state. And so that is why the Gary Johnson thing is not a small thing. Basically, the consequences of Obama foreign policy are overwhelming Europe. And Hillary wants to do the same thing here. She wants to have 1 million Syrians here. There's a new program for emotional wellness that they want to pay for. So you're there in your town. You're feeling stressed out because the mill closed, the factory closed, and you got nothing but some minimum wage job doing the night shift at the quickie crap. But they're bringing in people for whom they are already allocating new welfare programs. And that's the insanity of the world that Hillary Clinton has made. That's what we mean by experience. And that's why nobody cares about experience. Because if experience means doing what Hillary did to Libya, who needs experience? Better to get some guy who's never actually managed to collapse an entire country. That's not in his wheelhouse. That's when the clever people are as dumb as the clever people. This is what ties it all. It's Angela Merkel, Brexit, Trump, the whole thing. When the clever people have loused it up, when the smart people have loused it up the way they have, you can't blame the people for looking for something else. Mark Stein for Rush will take your calls straight ahead. Mark Stein in for Rush on America's #1 radio show. It's Open Line Friday. That means you get to raise whatever is on your mind, whatever topic you want to discuss. 1-800-282-2882. Let's go to Russell in Hammond, Louisiana. Russell, what's on your mind today?
How are you doing, Mark? Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
The entire movement towards Trump goes back to one singular moment in the Obama administration, and that was when they passed Obamacare one night, and 73% of the nation did not want it. And we all tried to call in, and they unplugged the phones, showing we the people that they didn't feel like of the people, by the people, and for the people still existed, that they were above that. And that anger has carried over to this point, and they can't understand because they never understood what they did that night. And at any point, that's why people are falling in line for Trump, because he has an upbeat spirit, he has a positive attitude, and he wants America to be great again.
Well, you're right, Russell. I think that Obamacare goes to the fact that, the smart people turn out to be not that smart. They basically thought they took a sixth of the American economy. They basically governmentalized the equivalent of the entire French economy, a few associates of Obama, starting with the Health and Human Services Secretary and that guy who's a brother of Rahm Emanuel and a couple of others. These smart guys got together and said, we single-handedly can run a sixth of the American economy, an economy the size of France. We clever people who've been to all the same universities as Obama, we can all run this. And they devised something that is hideous and is expensive and actually isn't health insurance anymore, because basically the cost of the insurance is more than the cost of just falling off the roof and paying for the operation. So, and that's the disaster they've made of it. And Trump, I don't know what Trump's plan is for healthcare, because he says he's going to repeal Obamacare. He said it yesterday. And then other times he says, well, national health is working great in Scotland and working great in Canada. And he implies that he's sympathetic to the single-payer thing. But he's not
more than just a failure of Obamacare. It's the fact that all of America believed that we were, and we still believe that we are of the people, by the people, and for the people, right, and that they work for us. And they somehow have gone into this divide that you're talking about.
Right.
where they've moved further and further away from us. And not only to Trump's, but Hillary basically said a big mouthful to where all or half of her constituents are also deplorables. Okay? We're all deplorables to all of them.
Right. No, that's true. And that you should always listen very carefully when essentially leaders are saying that they know better than the people, which is what that Hillary remark means. When she's saying that a majority of if you figure it's a 50-50 nation and a majority of Trump's people are irredeemable, she's saying basically 25% of the population of the country is irredeemable. It doesn't work like that. In representative government, the racist guy's vote has the same weight as Nelson Mandela's vote. And democracy entails respecting the collective votes of the people in the system. And I have seen across Europe, for example, you've had situations where in the Netherlands they prosecute a guy for his political platform, Geert Wilders, who is one of the most popular opposition leaders there. He's got a Trump-like immigration platform. He doesn't want mass Muslim immigration. They're prosecuting him because you're not allowed to hold that view. It doesn't matter how popular it is. They know better than the people. Austria has just botched its presidential election. It's doing everything it can to prevent the right-wing guy voting. It was supposed to be held in a few weeks' time. They're now saying, we can't hold the election in a few weeks' time. There's a problem. We had a problem with the stamps falling off the mailed ballots we sent out, so we're going to postpone it till next year. There's a good problem there. Brexit, the people who lost the Brexit vote then said the public got it wrong. The public got it wrong. Screw them. We don't have to listen to them. Why should Parliament have to listen to the vote of the people? Let's just ignore it. And then when they said, well, no, we can't really just ignore it, they said, let's hold another referendum until they give us the answer we want. And this is, again, what ties it together. A contempt for the people. We have lived through the age of popular representative government and returned to an age in which a privileged, insulated elite, they're not formally called dukes and marquises anymore, and they don't live in palaces anymore. Instead, they live at the Hamptons and Martha's Vineyard and Malibu. But essentially, we live in a patrician age. Hillary says, I have no idea how you schlubs live, because they hustle me into the video, into the limousine. And if I did know how you schlubs lived, I couldn't meet you because I'd fall over and all the rest of it. But trust me, I know what's in your best interest. I will do things for you. And so we have lived through a couple of centuries of representative popular government and now have returned to rules by the new aristocracy jetting over us from Martha's Vineyard to Barbara's pad on the beach at Malibu and then back to Washington. And that's right. The people have said, no, you work for us. You're not a queen. You're not an empress. You're just Hillary Clinton, citizen representative. Mark Stein for Rush. More to come. Mark Stein for Rush. A new survey shows that less than a third of Germans enjoy sex. This is less than a third of Germans enjoy sex. I don't know whether that's all that New Year's Eve Cologne gang rape or whatever that has just gotten out of hand. But Angela Merkel, it turns out she wrecks everything. That is an amazing statistic. Fewer than 1/3 of the population of Germany enjoys sex. Mark Stein for Rush. Lots more to come. Yes, America's Anchorman is away, and this is your undocumented anchorman, Mark Stein, honoured to be behind the golden EIB microphone while Rush takes the day off to set up all the apps on his new iPhone 7. Rush is going to be back here for the real deal, authentic, full-strength, all-American Excellence in Broadcasting starting on Monday for the full week, as American as apple pie, whereas I'm as American as apple pie a la mode. It's just like it's just got something foreign and icky at the end of it. It's great to be with you. How bad is it going to be for Mrs. Clinton? The police, what do they call the Fraternal Order of Police? I nearly said the Federal Order of Police. The Fraternal Order of Police have endorsed Donald Trump. They sat it out last time round. They didn't endorse either Obama or Romney, but they have now decided to endorse Trump. These things matter, to use a word. All these little things like Black Lives Matter. It would have been difficult for the Fraternal Order of Police to endorse Clinton after going full Black Lives Matter at that convention, I think. I think it would have been extremely difficult to them. How bad is it getting for Hillary, though? This story reports from the New York Times Friday that Hillary Clinton's team is discussing ways to bring Al Gore into the fold between now and November. And the reason they want to bring Gore into the picture is they want to help the Democratic presidential nominee who is struggling to build her support against competition from third-party candidates. Gore might be able to convince voters that a third-party ballot could end up electing Republican Donald Trump, because he knows what it's like when it's a close race from 2000. So they're going to bring in Al Gore. What's happening here is that young people are apparently not warming up to Clinton and instead are parking their vote for the moment with Gary Johnson. Whether they're going to do that on Election Day, we don't know. But they don't regard Hillary Clinton as anything new. They don't get it, as they say, when they don't understand why this particular person has been imposed on them as the candidate. The name doesn't mean anything to them. The Clinton thing doesn't mean anything to them. And when you hear about it, it all gets pretty iffy. You know, if they start to Google around and run across Juanita Broderick or whatever, they don't understand. Why is this person the person I'm meant to vote for? So the young are parking their votes with the aforementioned Gary Johnson, the Aleppo guy. And this is interesting that there are two third-party candidates right now. There's Gary Johnson and there's Jill Stein, who's the Green Party candidate. She's the one who wants to make the Code Pink woman her Secretary of State. So she's got real strong appeal to the young lefties, Jill Stein, and she's got the whole environmental thing. So almost all the Jill Stein vote is taken from Hillary. Then you've got Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson is the libertarian. He's meant to be the candidate for people who don't like Trump. But when you actually break down the numbers, it turns out that he's drawing more people from Hillary. So unless that's particularly young people, because young people don't care about the financial stuff, the fiscal stuff, but they like all the social liberalism. So they like all the marijuana stuff. He sounds like one of them. And they don't hear any of the other stuff. So right now, according to the way the numbers look, it's if the third party vote manages to flip a state, it's actually far more likely to flip a state out of the Hillary column into the Trump column. One of the saddest things I saw today was the endorsement of Gary Johnson by the Union Leader, which is New Hampshire's statewide newspaper. It used to be a great newspaper. It was run by a woman called Naki Loeb. Pat Buchanan, when he won the New Hampshire primary in 1996, he thanked Naki Loeb for a great job and running a great newspaper. Because he felt at that time it was a powerful newspaper and it helped deliver New Hampshire to Pat Buchanan. And since then, it's been backing losers. Who did it want in the Republican primary? Was it Christie? Yeah, it was Chris Christie. The Union Leader endorsed Chris Christie. And then, of course, when Chris Christie became Alfred to Trump's Batman, the Union Leader has completely fallen out With him, he's become Jeeves to Trump's Bertie Wooster. He does it very well, mind you. Chris Christie is on the outs with the union leader now. They're furious with him. But so anyway, the union leader, basically because they got suckered by Chris Christie, is not endorsing Trump, and they are endorsing Gary Johnson. As I said, this used to be a great and influential newspaper. And when Naki Loeb died, I actually suggested to the newspaper group I worked for at that time that we ought to buy the union leader and keep it a strong conservative voice in New Hampshire. And instead it's just run by some inert trust and has declined in influence to the point where it is now endorsing Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, a strong conservative voice for New Hampshire that all during Bill Weld's governorship of Massachusetts thought nothing of urinating on him from across the border and mocking him. When Bill Weld was governor of Massachusetts, they abolished one county in Massachusetts. They merged it into the other county. And the union leader ran an editorial saying, if they can abolish one Massachusetts county, why don't they just abolish all of them and the whole state? That's what the union leader thought about Bill Weld in the good days. Now it's endorsing Gary Johnson and Bill Weld for president and vice president. Something odd is happening here, folks. Hillary Clinton is asking Al Gore to go around warning people of the dangers of a third-party vote, because she has calculated Bill Clinton is a bust on the campaign trail. Have you seen that? Have you seen his appearances lately? Nobody under 40 seems to know who he is. They don't seem clear on it. Whereas Al Gore, the stiff who stood next to Bill Clinton, the cigar store Indian at Bill Clinton's side for 8 years, still has some resonance with the young, because ever since they were in grade school, they've had to watch his rotten, stinking climate change movie. So we are now in a situation where Al Gore has more cool... Can you imagine what Bill Clinton must make of this? Al Gore now has more cool than Bill Clinton. So Hillary wants to get Al Gore to go out and tell young people about the danger. Say, stop. I know you keep warning them about the polar bears and the melting ice flows, but instead could you also mention that it's my electoral college majority that's also melting on that ice flow with the polar bear. So could you just mention occasionally, Al Gore, when you speak to these people, could you just tell them not to vote third party, because right now there's 2 third parties and they're both taking far more votes away from me than they're taking from Trump. That is the situation that they've got to in this election. Now, I want to make I get all these emails when I do this show saying Rush isn't conservative. Yeah, of course he's not conservative. As I mentioned, the presidency started as a reaction to monarchy, and it's now turned into a kind of monarchy. So we're told that he's a celebrity candidate. Actually, if you want a celebrity candidate, look at the way they treat Hillary. And look at the picture of the press corps looking adoringly at Hillary on the plane. As some guy tweeted, I'd like to find a woman who looked at me the way the press look at Hillary. She's the one it's nothing to do with Trump being a celebrity. He actually gets treated far more like a normal person than Hillary does. It's the nature of the institution. I'm not looking for a messiah. I'm never looking for a messiah. I was born in Toronto, the subject of a monarchy, and one of the advantages of that is that the guy who runs the government is just some bloke in a suit, and that's in a healthy situation. That's the way it would be. That's how it was in Calvin Coolidge's day. He was just the bloke in the suit. But we don't do the bloke in a suit thing anymore. The presidency has become this where people are looking for the great leader, like Obama. These come down from. You had all these Hollywood celebrities saying we divide the world into the age before Obama and the age after Obama. I'm not looking for that. I don't want him to be a savior. I don't expect to agree with him on everything. And I know enough to know that my 80% friend is not my 20% enemy. And that's what happens when you've got 2 choices here. You listen to that economic speech he gave. There's things in there that Reagan would not applaud and would sit on his hands for, and that Calvin Coolidge would not applaud and would sit on his hands for. But it's indisputably more conservative than anything that Hillary Clinton is offering. And Rush got hammered by people for saying that, we should put aside the maternity leave thing. He said the politics of it were brilliant. And it's not as cynical as that. The fact is, when government gets to the size it's got, the fact is big government is a given. It's just a question of what it does, what its priorities are. And so we're not, the idea that we can suddenly overnight go back to Calvin Coolidge's size of federal government, we cannot. We cannot. That's not on the ballot. But as I said, when you take Trump all in all, he's right on the biggest issue, which is that no advanced society needs mass immigration in the second decade of the 21st century. No advanced society does, because those people in the shuttered mill towns doing the crummy night shift at the quickie crap, enjoy it while you can, because the next thing is going to be automated checkout there and they won't need you for that anymore. So no advanced society needs mass immigration. Never mind mass illegal immigration or 1 million Syrians, as Hillary Clinton is proposing to be. So he's right on the most important issue. And if he's wrong on that, it doesn't matter, because there'll never be a Republican again, because everywhere will be California. So you won't have to worry about the Republican Party. And so that's what the choice is. And as I said on this show 3-4 months ago, the problem with Hillary Clinton is that the whole stinking show is rotten and corrupt. And that was before we got the pay-for-play revelations about the Clinton Foundation, where basically you paid Bill Clinton money to get Hillary Clinton's ear at the State Department. That was before we found out that John Kerry had given $9 million to some so-called non-profit that his kid runs. That was before we got the revelations about the Department of Justice basically conducting a sham investigation into the whole Clinton emails thing. If you think of what it's like now and put on another 8 years of it, 8 years. Because that's what it'll be, 8 years. I know I've heard all this stuff. Oh, we just have to sit this election out, and then we'll finally get it right. We never get it right. We haven't got it right for years. We haven't got it right since Reagan. But in 2020, we'll get it right. We will get it right. We're going to get it right this time. We didn't get it right before. We didn't get it right in 2012. Didn't get it right in 2009. Didn't get it right blah, 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 all the way back to 1984. We haven't got it right, but we're going to get it right in 2020. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. And in case you haven't noticed, I mentioned earlier that there's increasingly less respect, even for the fiction, that there are two sides, that there is a diversity of opinion. If you think what it's like now, there's some Ivy League college, it was in the paper the other day, it says you can't say you guys anymore because it might upset women. Doesn't, you can't say this, you can't say that. Think of the most stupid, politically correct college campus you know, and imagine it applied to the nation. That's what 8 years of a Hillary Clinton presidency and a Hillary Clinton Supreme Court is going to get you. And you can be purer than thou, and you can sit it out, but in the end, you don't mistake the sidelines for the moral high ground. Because in the real world, you have choices to make. And being too pure to vote for Trump means ensuring that in 2024, we will be emerging from Hillary Clinton's America. Mark Stein for Rush will take your calls straight ahead. Mark Stein for Rush, Open Line Friday on America's #1 radio show. Let's go to Terry in Toledo, Ohio. Terry, you're live on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Great to have you with us.
Hi, Mark. I love when you fill in for Rush.
Well, thank you. These are grim times, but we shall struggle through them.
Yes, and you make it really funny. So anyway, the reason I was calling is because Hillary was speaking at this Black Women's Agenda Symposium today, right. And she was saying how Trump has tried to restrain himself and clean up his image over the past couple of weeks. And then she, like in her monotone voice, she says how Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And then she went on to talk about how Donald Trump has shown us who he is and about this birther thing, and he's tried to delegitimize the first black president that we've had. But she needs to take that quote and apply it to herself, because she is the one that has shown everyone who she is by calling, half of Trump's supporters, which total millions and millions of Americans, who she really is, by calling them deplorable.
Right. And
so the quote applies to her really well.
Yeah. That's a real that Maya Angelou line when someone shows you who you are. Hillary has been showing us who she is for 25 years now, since she first emerged from Arkansas onto the national stage, and everyone all the media keep insisting there's another Hillary. That people say in private, Hillary is charming and humorous and delightful. No one ever sees that Hillary in public, but they keep saying that somehow there's this secret Hillary somewhere. When she finally kicks off her shoe, the one she didn't leave in the street, when she finally gets back to her place and kicks off the sole remaining shoe, there's a charming, wry, humorous, delightful, amusing Hillary that is sparkling company and everybody loves. And it's such a pity that we don't get to see that on the campaign trail. We have seen the same consistent, humorless, monotone Hillary now for 25 years. And they keep insisting that there's some other secret Hillary that all her friends know. And the Maya Angelou line, when someone shows you who you are, believe them. If we can't believe Hillary Clinton after 25 years, Terry, if it's going to take another 25, I don't believe that secret, charming, amusing Hillary exists, Terry, I'm afraid.
Exactly. And then she tried to walk it back again by saying she didn't apologize, by saying she didn't mean the word half.
Right.
What does that mean? I mean...
No. I did like that Trump thing when he said he was going to be president for all Americans.
Right,
and that
exactly.
You can't say that a quarter of the electorate is irredeemable. You can't basically express your contempt for them. When you're standing next to Barbara Streisand, Barbara can do it. Barbara can get away with it. She's in her beach house at Malibu, and she can get away with stuff like that if she wants to. But she knows enough to tap Hillary on the shoulder and say, you can't write off a quarter of the American people as if they do not matter and they are irredeemable. And that remark, the media is trying to spin it as somehow a brilliant strategy by Hillary. It's not. It's yet another albatross round her neck. Yes, Rush is away, but he will be back on Monday, so don't worry. And in fact, there is never any need to worry, because if you find the old foreign guest host beginning to grate after a bit, all you have to do is go to rushlimbaugh.com and become a Rush 24/7 subscriber, and you can get Rush at any time of the day or night that you want him. You can, in any form you want him. You can get him in audio, you can get him in transcripts, you can get him on the Ditto Cam, and all you got to do is go to rushlimbaugh.com, sign up to Rush 24/7, and join today, and you'll get a free Never Hillary bumper sticker. While you're there, pick up one of these new I'm a Hillary Deplorable t-shirt. It's a lovely thing in jet blue with I'm a Hillary Deplorable on the front and Never Hillary on the back, and you can get it exclusively from rushlimbaugh.com. They're a bargain, and so is a Rush 24/7 subscription. And if you sign up today, you will get a free Never Hillary bumper sticker. So just go to rushlimbaugh.com, and they got a yellow button on there that says join. And all you got to do is press that button, and you will never have to fear Rush absences again, because the whole thing will be there for you any time of the day or night you want it. Hillary is now calling on Trump to apologize to Obama over the birther claims. This is why I've spent, as I said, I've been traveling for a little project I'm working on, and what you're seeing is basically all over the world, but particularly over the developed world, people are getting sick of being told what they can and can't talk about. And the way election campaigns devolve into all these little nothing things. There was the same business before the Brexit vote. Nigel Farage, who appeared at a Trump rally a few weeks ago at Trump's side and is a great man. And he apparently had come up with some ad that all the people got fit of the vapors about and said this was unacceptable and this was racist and this was it was deplorable and all the rest of it. And people said, no, sorry, this is, when we vote, we'd like to vote about issues that are of importance to us. And all these things about whether Trump disrespected Obama, nobody cares about that. It didn't work during the primary, whether he disrespected John McCain or Jeb Bush or any of it. Nobody cares about it. Because when your life sucks, you'd at least like to get the chance to vote on something important. And it's not going to get Hillary, it's not going to go anywhere. I don't care if Hillary apologizes for the deplorables thing, because it doesn't mean anything. It's a political apology. And a political apology is completely pointless. We know what she thinks. We know what she thinks of these people. Why bother demanding an apology? It's completely stupid. But she's saying now that that Trump should apologize to Obama for the birther claim. She was at a Black Women's Agenda symposium, as we heard, and she said that he owes Obama an apology. Hillary Clinton, when she was running, all her advisors, she's the one who started this, getting into this birther thing, and again the secret Muslim thing where she was giving these coy answers. Oh, he's not a secret Muslim as far as I know, and all the rest of it. Her strategist, Mark Penn, who's one of these clever people, that's the other great thing, by the way. Even if you disagree with Trump, it would be an immense cleansing act for a man to be elected president of the United States without this vast consultant industrial complex that has done so much to disfigure presidential politics in America. But a distinguished member of this consultant industrial complex, Mark Penn, sent a memo to Hillary in 2007 urging that she target Obama's, quote, lack of American roots, unquote. I cannot imagine America electing a president during a time of war who is not at his center fundamentally American in his thinking and in his values. She was being urged to play the foreigner card. And she did for a bit with all this secret Muslim thing. Is he, isn't he? Just like setting it out there and letting people tease it out of her. And in fact, the original birther was Obama himself, who let his own publicist, his own literary publicist, either his literary agent or his publicist, I forget which. This is in my book, by the way. I could check it in my book, but it's on page 137 of the undocumented Mark Stein, if you want to get chapter and verse. But he let his publicist pass him off as Kenyan for 10 years because the publicist thought it would sell more books. Because they thought for Obama, instead of passing him off as just, the latest in the Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton parade, that it would be better if he was like an exotic who wasn't American. So his own publicist on the website had him there for 10 years as born in Kenya and took it down a week after Obama announced he was running for president. Barack Obama's publicist is the original birther, because he thought it would be cooler to pass himself off as foreign and exotic. I do it myself. I was born in Toledo. This accent is hell to keep up, especially by the time you get to the third hour. So I completely sympathize with that. I was born in Toledo, Mr. Snerdley. Everybody knows that. So I completely sympathise with this wanting to pass yourself off as foreign and exotic. But the idea that has Hillary demanded an apology from Barack Obama's publicist for calling him a Kenyan for 10 years? Nobody cares. It's not going to work. It's not going to work because there are real issues at stake in the election. It's not a business as usual election. Hillary will open those borders, not just to 1 million Syrians, but to anybody else. And she will they are serious. As Hillary said at this meeting for the Black Women's Agenda Symposium, quoting Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who you are, believe them. The Democratic Party doesn't waste time. They read we've had people on today talking about the Obamacare. 73% people opposed it. Scott Brown got elected to Ted Kennedy's seat. That's how much people opposed it, even in liberal Massachusetts. And yet in the lame duck session, Barack Obama got his mallet and the wedge and hammered it down America's throat because they're serious about power, and the Republican Party has not been serious about power. So that things that were nobody even thought about. Who the hell gave a thought to transgendered bathrooms in 2008? And suddenly they're sending directives now to every little grade school in the country. You knock it on 8 years to 2024. They're serious about completing their transformation of this country. They're absolutely serious about it. And they're less and less inclined even to pay lip service to the idea of a two-party system. Their idea of a two-party system is that most of the time they win, and every so often the other guys win, but they don't do anything. They just keep the seat warm until the Democrats win again. And that is the core. That is the core idea animating the immigration issue in this country, is that the Democrats relied on the Republicans never meaning it on mass illegal immigration. That in the end they would always talk about it in terms of comprehensive immigration reform. That in the end they would be like John McCain, who mocked the idea of the word amnesty and said, if you don't like the word amnesty, call it a banana. But it doesn't make any difference. I'm going to do it anyway. And then when he's in trouble in his primary, John McCain, in even years, runs as build the danged wall. Build the danged wall. That's what he's running in even years. And in odd years, if you don't like the word amnesty, call it a banana. That's where the Democrats relied on the Republican Party never seriously pushing back on anything that mattered. And people got sick of it. And this mad primary season is the result of it. And the result of it is that the Republican Party has a candidate that had it been a healthy, functioning entity, this man would never have been able to make a hostile takeover of the Republican Party. But he did, because that's how weak the Republican Party was. And at this stage, what is important to me is I want to live in a country that is not corrupt. So Hillary Clinton is unacceptable to me on corruption grounds. She is a corrupt person. Her foundation, her charitable foundation, is a money laundering operation. Only in America could you give taxable, tax-free donations to your own foundation, which then gives it back to you in the form of expenses. That's a racket. That's before you factor in the world's most unsavory foreign governments paying the Clinton Foundation in order to line up appointments with Hillary Clinton's State Department. That's before you factor in Hillary Clinton's State Department arranging diplomatic passports for the Clinton Foundation. So we're in real banana republic country. I don't know why. Look, I'm a foreigner. If you need me to tell you this, you're over. You're finished. It shouldn't be necessary for me to point this out to you. But the line between the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton State Department did not exist. They had emerged. The Clinton Foundation's relationship to the Clinton State Department was that of the Communist Party to the Soviet government. In the one-party state, the party and the state merge. And in Hillary's one-party state, the foundation and the State Department merged. It's disgusting. Hillary ought to be prosecuted for what she did. And she isn't being prosecuted because she's Hillary and you're not. So we've got equality before the law issues there. There's no equality before the law. That's important to me too, you know. I don't think whether you get prosecuted should depend on whether you're Hillary Clinton or whether you're Joe Schmo. I think Joe Schmo and Hillary Clinton should be the same when they come up before a judge, or in this case, the Department of Justice. But they're not. So we know what we have now. We have a corrupt revenue agency. We have a corrupt national law enforcement agency in the FBI. You know, when you've got a corrupt revenue agency, how do you think, by the way, when you sit out this election and you come back for your usual big midterm victory in 2 years' time, how do you think it's going to go for whatever replaces the Tea Party, the next mass movement, the support groups? How do you think it's going to go? How do you think the IRS is going to treat those groups when the Democrats have been rewarded by a third term? The IRS is basically the paramilitary wing of the Democrat Party, and they've paid no price for it. Likewise, now you've got a corrupted law enforcement. And Republicans are the biggest saps on the planet. You do this all the time. You say, all the time, in the run-up to James Comey's decision, they're all, James Comey isn't a political figure at all. He's a man of complete probity and integrity, and he will do the right thing. He's not a partisan figure. He's not a Democrat or a Republican. He'll absolutely... All these parade of people saying this stuff on the news, and it turns out, as usual, Republicans got suckered again. America, what you think of as America, is not going to be there after a Hillary Clinton presidency. They're less and less interested in even pretending that they're not about a total transformation. And your job is to shut up, just the way when your kids get sent to American universities and you've raised them as conservatives and they start to say something, then everyone said, no, you can't say that here. You're intruding on my safe space. You can't say that. You can't do that. You can't be that. That's, think of the worst university campus in this country and imagine it stretching from Maine to Hawaii. That's the world Hillary's building for you. Mark Steyn, back in a moment. You know, the difference between Hillary's press corps and Trump's press corps is that Trump's press corps is existing in an openly oppositional relationship to him. You may recall they were stuck on their plane last night and they were late and furious because Trump said he joked about it and said they'd asked him to wait to start the event, and he said no, he was going to start without them, which is as it should be. You don't keep the American people waiting because some reporters have managed to get there late. So this morning, after getting rolled, as John King put it, they got played with this whole Trump giving him a free half hour of airtime for this birther announcement. The press corps now has decided that they're not going to show any of the video of Trump's new hotel, that they're just to show him, just to teach him a lesson, just to show him. And you compare this to the Hillary press corps, where they're saying, what's that TV show she likes, The Good Wife? So their question, when she finally agrees to take their questions, instead of asking her about this phony baloney flim-flam about what her health issues are, they say, oh, were you resting up at home enjoying the good life? It's The Good Wife. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Mark Steyn for Rush will close it out in just a moment. Hey, the great man is going to be back behind the golden EIB microphone on Monday. Don't miss that. As for me, I get to flee back across the border. It's worrying to me because, as usual, celebrities are threatening to move to Canada if the election doesn't go that way. And normally it's just Alec Baldwin you have to worry about, but Lena Dunham is threatening to move to Canada if Trump wins. They always want to move to Canada, by the way. They never want to move to Mexico for some reason. I don't know what that reason could be, but it's always Canada that they're going to move to. And Lena Dunham is currently threatened. So it's not just you. Usually you have to worry about Alec Baldwin and Barbara Streisand, or you think, well, I don't really want Alec meeting Alec in the laundry room of my condo building or whatever. It'd be, but I can just about put up with it. But Lena Dunham is actually going to flee to Canada. Then I think the first Canadian political party that proposes building a Canadian border wall and getting the Americans to pay for it is absolutely going to sweep to power. But we shall see. My bet is that on November, whatever it is, Lena Dunham and co. will all be here. It's not just that but I think you should ask them this. Why don't you move to any of the places you talk up all the time? like Mexico? Why do you only ever decide you're going to move to Canada? It's been a great show for me. Great honor to be here behind this microphone talking about a very consequential election. Think seriously. Rush back Monday.